Welcome to W&L Sports Weekly. I'm Jeremy Franklin. On our final show before the holiday break, we have a very special guest. W&L President Ken Ruscio is with us in the studio. President Ruscio, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jeremy.
You're a very active supporter of W&L athletics. We see you in the stands at a lot of home games. You and Sydney Evans, the Dean of Students, recently traveled to Kentucky for the football playoff game at Thomas More. How enjoyable has it been for you to just sit back and be a fan of the Generals?
Well, I think that's a great way to explain how I approach it, Jeremy. I'm a fan. I love sitting in the stands, sitting courtside during the winter season, going out in the spring, and just watching our student athletes. I mean, for me, that's a time when I get to just have pure enjoyment in the job. It's fun to watch our student athletes and watch them perform. And I don't feel like the president when I do that. I feel like a W&L alumnus, a member of the W&L community, and someone who just takes great pride in our student athletes and watching them.
The W&L football team has had a great deal of success in the last decade. ODAC titles and NCAA appearances in 06, 10, and 12. But what does a 10-0 regular season tell you about the state of that program?
I think great presidential leadership is probably the best way to explain it. Our football team has just had a tremendous run. And you know, of course I watch the wins, and I take great pride in the wins. But I've took much more pride in the way our student athletes have performed as individuals. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes just great devotion to something. And so I watch that, and I'm awfully glad when it results in wins. But even in those times when it doesn't result in wins, it's amazing to watch their commitment. So this year, I think the football program, of course, has exemplified that in every way, shape, and form. You know, to watch great coaching, to watch a great team spirit, to watch everyone. You know, of course, a lot of times in football, you pay attention to the person who has the ball. But what I've watched a lot this year are the linemen, the defensive players, the kicker, just great moments to watch throughout the year. And in fact, Dean Evans and her husband Dan and Kim and I took a ride out to some godforsaken place in Kentucky to watch that game, but it was worth every minute of it. We enjoyed it, even in the driving cold rain for that last quarter. It was just great to be there, a wonderful experience.
Scott Abel's team has received a lot of well-deserved recognition, but football wasn't the only sport that has excelled so far this year. Men's soccer won the ODAC title. Men's and women's cross country both won conference championships. Field hockey reached the conference final for the first time in a decade. Can you recall a season where the Generals had as much success as they did this fall?
Well, no. I can't personally. Maybe if we go back through the record books, we might find something like this. But you know, it's a cliche to say it's one of those magical seasons. No matter where you went in this on a Saturday afternoon or Wednesday afternoon in what appears to be kind of an Olympic village back there, you go from soccer to field hockey to football to you know, occasional cross country thing on a Saturday morning. It has been truly one of those magical seasons. 5 coaches of the year, if I have that right. I'm not sure that's ever happened before. You know, watching field hockey have just an unexpectedly great season in some ways. I think we were all going to kind of see how that unfolded over the next few years, but you know, Gina comes in as the new coach, and all of a sudden we're playing for the conference championship. Men's soccer, you know, watching that championship unfold, and then going at least into the second round of the NCAAs. The player of the year in the conference in men's soccer. You go down the list, and everywhere you turn, cross country, it's just been a fantastic fall season for us.
The landscape of college sports has been shifting rather dramatically over the last few years, increasing power for the larger Division I conferences. There's the discussion of pay for play for scholarship athletes. How do you see those changes filtering down and impacting Division III?
Well, I hope they don't filter down. I may be one of the last idealists or purists when it comes to college sports, but one of the most interesting things about watching our student athletes is you're watching someone perform on the offensive line, or someone who is running in a championship cross-country meet, and you're not just watching an athlete perform. You're watching a physics engineering major, an art major, a history major, a business administration major, who has just written a thesis on something. You're watching them enlarge their education. They are learning so many things at Washington and Lee, and the athletic experience, the classroom experience, the leadership experience that they get within the community. All of that comes together where the whole is so much greater than the sum of the parts. And I think one of the things I most lament about the power divisions and Division I is the segmentation of the experience. You're an athlete, and then you occasionally pick up an education along the way. But the coming together in Division III, and especially at a place like Washington and Lee, really distinguishes that experience from what happens on many other places.
Your experience with D3 sports goes beyond your role as an administrator. Your son Matt played lacrosse at St. Lawrence. How did being the parent of a Division III athlete impact your view of college sports?
Yeah, well, that's a whole different experience, as you might imagine. When I go to college president meetings and talk about Washington and Lee athletics, that's great. And when I sit in the stands as a W&L fan, that's great. When you sit in the stands as a parent, that's a very different experience. I watched Matthew go through those 4 years of lacrosse at St. Lawrence, and you really come to appreciate the ups and downs of the experiences that they have, the team bonding that comes together, the friends that he made for life, the relationships with the coaches and how he benefited from that, how you deal with setbacks, as well as the successes that inevitably come your way. So I look upon it as a parent and see how much that athletic experience contributed to not only my son's education, but his development as a person. And I can recognize that in our student athletes as well.
You spoke earlier about the advantages of the Division III model for student athletes. Why do academics and athletics seem to complement each other so well at a place like Washington and Lee?
Because I think one of the reasons that academics and athletics complement each other so well at a place like Washington and Lee is, to be honest, I think some of our students self-select for that, and we're the beneficiaries of that. I don't think we make any bones about, if you come to Washington and Lee, you're coming here first and foremost for that hard education that is going to prepare you for the rest of your life. But I think the students who come here also know that education is not confined to a classroom. So I think we are the beneficiaries as much as the students are the beneficiaries, in that we just get great individuals who come here who are looking for that experience, and moreover excel at both of those. We get great athletes but great students. It's a wonderful environment to have.
During your tenure as president, there have been several notable upgrades to the athletics program, from the new Wilson Field to the natatorium that's currently under construction. How would you rate W&L's athletic facilities overall?
Well, I think when I first started here as president in 2006, we were just getting ready to launch into the Wilson Field renovations. I often referred to the old Wilson Field as a place of great character, but really one of the last embarrassments on this campus, and we really needed to do some work on that. So the Wilson Field renovations came very soon. Of course, if you look at the rest of the outdoor facilities, they are among the best in Division III, and I think most of the visiting athletes who come here acknowledge that with some envy. If nothing else, they have some of the greatest views in athletics in higher education. So I think our outdoor facilities have become strong. They've always been strong, but they've really become strong. And then it was time to really turn our attention to the indoor facilities. Of course, tennis is great. That's in great shape. But we knew that the Warner Center had served us well in the past, but it had served us well, and it was time to rethink that. We know that Doremus has great character and history, and we're going to retain Doremus, but in the next few years, provided all goes well, there'll be a new facility where the Warner Center now stands, one that is much more functional and much more attractive. And then the natatorium project, pretty close to a year from now. People will be swimming laps in there, and the swimmers will be competing in there. So in short order, our indoor facilities are going to rival our outdoor facilities. And that should be the case. Not luxury, anything. I mean, we're not building sky boxes and outrageous facilities, but we're building ones that our student athletes deserve and will enable them to perform their best.
What are your expectations for Washington Lee athletics in the years to come?
Well, I hope they continue to do well. And when I say well, of course, I hope they keep winning. It's nice to kind of own the Commissioner's Cup and the ODAC. It's nice to send students and teams on for postseason competitions. But doing well here at W&L in athletics goes beyond the wins and the losses. And I just hope we keep getting great student athletes, great coaches, and have the kind of student athlete experience where when they come back as alumni 10, 15, 25 years after they graduate, they remember with great fondness their time as student athletes.
President Ruscio, thanks for your support of the Generals. Thanks for joining us on the Sports Weekly.
Thank you very much for asking. It's been a privilege to be here. Thank you.
Once again, this will be our last show for the calendar year. We wish you all a very happy holiday and a happy new year. We'll be back with you in 2016. For W&L Sports Weekly, I'm Jeremy Franklin. Thanks for watching.